All right, while it's getting going, I've got stickers, Archaeology Podcast Network, 18 shows if you're interested in archaeology. Okay, so my name's Chris Webster. I am an archaeologist. I own a cultural resource management firm here in Reno, DigTech, and the Archaeology Podcast Network and Archaeological Certifications, which is geared towards training and certifications for archaeologists, which doesn't really exist right now. So when I was little, I wanted to be an archaeologist, a pilot, or a astronaut. And after I got my pilot's license and my commercial and instrument ratings, I went into archaeology. So 2 out of 3 is not bad, but I'm still waiting for Elon Musk's call for that first flight to Mars. And I've always been passionate about archaeology and training and education. So, I've produced videos and we've done all kinds of training and we put stuff together. That's me podcasting from my Prius, pirating somebody's Wi-Fi while on a project outside of a coffee shop that was closed. But what I'm talking about today is artifacts. And you're used to seeing artifacts in museums such as this one in Italy that we went to last year. And while that's a fantastic looking building, it's completely full of things like this, which are in glass cases. You can't see them, you can't touch them, you can't do anything with them. There's pretty much do not touch signs all over the place, except you really want to touch the mosaics, but they tell you not to. And that makes people want to pick those things up when they see them. That makes people want to collect them. My own Instagram feed is a horrible collection of artifacts that I just say, look at the pretty things I found, without any context, without any stories behind them or anything. You've got projectile points, a log cabin syrup tin, that's really what they're called, bottles. That thing in the upper right-hand corner is a blackface figurine holding a piece of watermelon. That's not a joke, found that a couple years ago. A button, but you can't tell anything from these stories, from these artifacts. You can see the pretty pictures. I can tell you that it's one of those projectile points is 3,000 years old. That one shaped like a crescent is up to 7, 8, 9,000 years old. But I can't tell you anything else about it. So if I just saw it, if you brought it up to me, because you collected it, I can't tell you anything about it except for its age. I can't tell you anything about the people that used it, maybe a little bit, but if I don't see it on the landscape and if I don't see it in its environment where it was left when it was last used, same thing with these pennies, a bottle, who knows what these things were used for. I can't do anything with those if I can't see them on the ground. So one of the most famous archaeologists around is Indiana Jones. Guess what? Fictional. And he's famous for saying it belongs in a museum, but that's dead wrong. It doesn't belong in a museum. It belongs somewhere out in the wilderness where we can find it as archaeologists, so we can say, okay, here's the context. Here's a good example. This cairn, if I took it piece by piece apart and put it into a museum, its meaning completely changes from sitting up here overlooking an oil well, which is a whole other story. Its meaning completely changes if I take it out of its context. Same with this pit that we dug not too long ago. If I were to take each one of these layers and show you the descriptions of those layers individually, they mean nothing, but together they tell a story. So we try to keep all these things together and we try to tell all these stories. A lot of people in Nevada have collections like this at home. They picked them up out in the wilderness. They didn't know any better. They saw it while they were hiking, something like that, and they just picked it up, and then they show somebody and say, look at all these pretty things, but they don't know anything about them. They're just pretty things. So all I'm telling you now is artifacts on their own really don't have a lot of value. It's the story they tell. This is a museum in Illinois, Cahokia, if anybody's ever been there. They have great dioramas. They also have artifacts in cases, but they show people using artifacts, people in context, people in the environments that they would have been in those times. We don't get nearly that kind of preservation over here in Nevada or much of the West, so we can't see those. We have to piece together those stories from what's left on the landscape and from what people left when they saw it and left it there, which was great for us. Museums of the future will let you interact with archaeology, will let you interact with history. There's already some places on the web that are doing that. This is kind of a concept image here, but it lets you get into the context. But to build these pictures, to build these things that you could walk through, you first need the artifacts in context so we can find them. I've been to quite a few sites that were looted of artifacts. There's nothing left, and we recommend bulldozers come through because there's nothing we can tell from it. So my recommendation is to leave things as you see them. I'm pretty sure Jesus wasn't at this rock art panel because it's a little older than he was, but leave things as you see them. Don't alter them. Use the high-end camera you've got in your pocket. Every single one of you does. Take all kinds of pictures. My font was way better than that, Colin. Take all kinds of pictures and leave nothing else behind except for the artifacts and take your memories and things with you. So that's all I have. Take a look at the Archaeology Podcast Network if you want to hear more stuff like this. I've been ranting on all my podcasts about this for the last few months now, and it's been entertaining. Thank you.